G'day and welcome to another episode of Kiwi Car Life, and today's episode is going to be a special one. I've had to drive all the way to Auckland to get it done, but today I present to you CL7 Euro R versus CL1 Euro R.
The 6th generation Accord saw the first culmination of Honda's Type R know-how in a more luxurious European-style sports sedan, hence the name Euro R. Split into 3 different iterations, you had the CL1 Accord and Tornado Euro R, which were mechanically identical but had slightly different front and rear ends. And for the European market, the CH1 Accord Type R. All 3 were characterised by their boxy arches and no-nonsense driving attitude. With the turn of the 21st century, Honda gave us the second and to this day final Accord Euro R. With a new engine and updated styling that replaced the more square look of its predecessor with a smooth and timeless design, it leads to quite the character shift whereby the CL7 portrays a more grown-up appearance much like the European offerings, with the CL1 looking decidedly more Japanese.
Mechanically, however, they are quite a lot more similar. This CL1 Euro R over here uses the red top H22A. It's a 162 kilowatt, 220 horsepower and 215 newton meter 2.2 litre inline 4. It's paired up with a 5-speed close ratio manual transmission with power going to the front wheels through a limited slip differential. Other notable mechanical differences is that the CL1s came with double wishbone suspension on all 4 corners, whereas the CL7 had double wishbone in the front and a multi-link setup in the rear. The engine is a little bit different too. It's a newer K20A, a 2 litre red top inline 4, making 162 kilowatt, 220 horsepower, exactly the same as this, but only 206 newton meters. This also has a manual transmission, but it was upgraded to a 6-speed over the 5-speed. It also has a limited slip diff, and it's also front wheel drive. Both of these cars have a pod filter and are lowered, but other than that, they're pretty much completely stock. The interiors though is where these cars really differ greatly. The similarities, they both have fantastic steering wheels. These seats are identical in both as well, although I do definitely think you sit quite a bit lower on the inside of the CL1. However, from there, they differ quite greatly. The CL7s are actually relatively well equipped. They have a very comprehensive trip computer, which I find to be quite useful. They've got dual zone climate control, definitely a more uprated stereo system, and a much more prestigious looking backlit gauge cluster. And the overall fit and finish on the inside is definitely quite a bit better. The CL1, on the other hand, is a very, very sparse interior. I love the white gauges that they have. I think they look absolutely fantastic, but the climate control is very basic. It has an extremely simple double DIN radio and no other features to be found. And a lot of the plastics on the inside are definitely of a lower quality when compared with the CL7. So if you're looking at both of these cars, it's something to keep in mind. Driving the CL1 Accord Euro R. First big difference, torque. When you put your foot down in this, something actually happens below 6,000 RPM, which is pretty insane. 4,500, foot down. Oh. Even when you're not in VTEC, this thing just responds, gets up and goes. And when you finally get it out on a back road, that's where this car comes alive. Just like any good performance Honda, especially the Accord, you can drive it along a motorway in comfort with 4 passengers, but then you can bring it out here and have just as much fun. Oh, the VTEC engages so aggressively too. And I love the gear ratios on these, just 2nd gear, 3rd gear. You can always get right into the power band so easily. These tighter corners, knock it down into 1st, use the limited slip diff. You can feel how well it works. And on a road like this, man, you forget that the interior is maybe not quite as nice, and it's only a 5-speed manual, and it's an older engine that likes to burn a lot of oil, because it is so good. Steering feel is excellent. The Recaros hold you in really well. This one on the coilovers handles so good. Just turn it in, and even in these greasy conditions, look, the car just responds. Goes through these corners so quickly. It is genuinely sensational to drive. So, CL1 versus CL7. This is an important video. I need to wrap this up right, because otherwise I'm going to have people complaining in the comments section. Look, the advantage with the CL1 is that it does have a more raw driving experience. That's not to say that the CL7 isn't raw. It's probably one of the rawest 2000s cars that you can drive, aside from maybe a DC5. Definitely the engine makes a lot more torque than this, and so for around town and on some of those more twisting, winding back roads where you're not always screaming at 8 grand around some of those low speed corners, it's really good. And the other advantage with it is just the looks. I just think the CL1 is one of the most timeless cars to come out of the 90s. And it's still a brilliant car, even though it is a little bit older. You know, the interior is obviously not quite as good, but still has great transmission feel. It still rides well. But of course, there are definitely areas where the CL7 is a little better. And the first one is in just general RPM, you know? 8,600 RPM. It's something pretty darn special. Oh, the way the limited slip just pulls you out of these corners on the VTEC. Oh man, I've got to say, this thing is glorious to drive. The CL7 is the slightly more refined, newer, slightly more featuresome example with more revs, shorter gears. But the CL1 is the slightly more raw, more torquey, more old school driving experience. And if you long for that 90s sports sedan driving experience, then the CL1 is definitely going to cut it for you. But for me, just because the CL7 offers pretty much everything the CL1 offers except the torque and that more boxy look, it's the one that I will still be taking home. And there is a reason why they are worth a little bit more, in my opinion. It's just because it's taken the CL1 and just improved it in just little areas to make it just that little bit nicer. But overall, man, it's a privilege to get to own this, and a privilege to get to drive that really nice CL1. And if you buy one of these, you are going to love it. And I'd absolutely recommend, if you get one, hold on to it, man, because this kind of experience is going away. And I know when I'm 40 or 50, this car won't be around anymore. Nothing like this will be around anymore. So get in now while you can, because these are some special cars, man. Oh, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.